So you think this woke mind virus that the right refers to is a problem, but not a big problem?
No. So the right wing drives me crazy. So look, guys, your instincts of populism is correct. Your instincts of anti-corruption is correct, right? And I love you for it. And so, and in a lot of ways, the right wing voters figured out the whole system's screwed before left wing voters did. Now, I shouldn't say left wing voters because progressives and left wing have been saying it for not only decades, but maybe centuries,
Yeah.
right? But Democratic voters, a lot of Democratic voters, some of them actually like this current system. Some of them, a lot of them have been tricked into liking this current system. And the left should be fighting against corruption harder than the right. But right now, unfortunately, that's not the case. So there's a lot that I like about right-wing voters, okay? But you guys get tricked on social issues so easily, right? So how many people are involved in trans high school sports, and a girl who should have finished first in that track race in the middle of Indiana finished second? First of all, this is the big crime. And how many people are involved? About 13 out of a country of 330 million people. And you can't see that that's a distraction, right? So, and everything they did that is like bait that the right-wing media puts out there, they run after. I mean, Tucker Carlson doing insane segments about M&M's should be sexier. Mr. Potato Head has gender issues. Guys, get out of there. Get out of there. It's a trap. Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that there absolutely. It doesn't mean that there's larger scale issues with things like DEI that aren't so fun to talk about or viral to talk about on an anecdotal scale. There is DI does create a culture of fear with cancel culture, and it does create a kind of culture that limits the freedom of expression, and it does limit the meritocracy in another way. So you're basically saying, forget all these other problems. Money is the biggest problem.
So first of all, on AOC, as an example, and I don't mean to pick on her, but she won through the great work of her and Shoykat Chakrabarti and Corbin Trent and others who were leaders of the Justice Democrats that went and helped her campaign. They were critical help. And we all told her the same thing. So it's not about me. And so we all said, you've got to challenge the establishment and you've got to work on money in politics first. Because if you don't work on money in politics and you don't fix that, you're going to lose on almost all other issues. But she didn't believe us because it's uncomfortable. And all the progressives that went into Congress, they drive me crazy. They think, oh, no, you're exaggerating. No, these are, and the minute they get in, all of a sudden, my colleagues, right? Your colleagues hate you and they're going to drive you out. You're a sucker. And Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, what did they do? They drove them out. Marie Newman drove them out, right? And because they're not on your side, they're not your colleagues. And what happened to $15 minimum wage? And I remember talking to one of those Congress people, I won't leave out the name, and saying, hey, they're not going to do $15 minimum wage. And he's like, oh, Cenk, you're out of the loop. Nancy Pelosi assured us that they are going to do $15 minimum wage. I'm like, I love you, but you're totally wrong. Moneyed interests are not going to do $15 minimum wage. You have to start fighting now, right? And they didn't get it, so they lost on almost all those issues because it's all about incentives and disincentives and rules. If you don't fix the rules, you're going to constantly run into the same brick wall. Now, the second issue that we were talking about is in the culture wars. The rest of us are stuck between the two extreme 2%ers. Right, on both sides. So the 2%er on the left goes, if you're a white woman, you need to shut up and listen now, okay? That's ridiculous. No, you don't. If you're a white woman, you have every right to speak out. You have every right that every other human being has. And so would I love for all of us to listen to one another, to have empathy for one another and go, hey, I wonder how a right-winger thinks about this. I wonder how a left-winger thinks about this. I wonder why they think that way, right? I love that and I want that. So I want you to listen, but I don't want you to shut up. So that 2% gets extreme and I don't like it. But on the right wing, you got your 2% who think that that's all that's happening on the left. And that's all that's happening in American politics. And they think the entire left believes that tiny 2%, right? And so they hate the left. And they're like, oh, I'm not going to shut up. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to do any of these things. And I'm not going to do any. That's a freedom. And then a Republican comes along and goes, oh, yeah, that thing you call freedom, that's deregulation for corporations because you shouldn't really have freedom. Companies should have freedom, right? And then the guy goes, yeah, freedom for ExxonMobil. No, brother, they tricked you.
Yeah, the 2% on each side is a useful distraction for the corruption of the politicians via money. Still, I'm talking about the 96% that remains in the middle and the impact that DEI policies has on them.
So here's where it gets absurd. I'll give you a good example of absurdity. So, in a school, I believe in California, they noticed that Latino students were not doing as well in AP and honors classes. So they canceled AP and honors classes. Yeah. Oh, come on. What are you doing? That's nuts. No, your job is to help them get better grades, get better opportunity, etc. That's the harder thing to do and the right thing to do. Your job isn't, I'm going to make everything equal by taking away the opportunity for higher achievement for other students. If that's what you're doing and you think you're on the left, you're not really on the left. I actually think that's like an authoritarian position that no progressive in their right mind would be in favor of. So, but it's all definitional. So here's another example of definitional. Communism. Like they say, oh my God, Kamala Harris is a communist. Well, when you're telling on yourself, brothers and sisters, when you say that, that means A, I don't know what communism means. And B, I don't have any idea what's going on in American politics. Kamala Harris is a corporatist. That's her problem. Not that she's a communist. She's on the other end of the spectrum, right? The idea that Kamala Harris would come into office and say, that's it, there's no more private property. We're going to take all of your homes and it's now government property, all your cars, etc. She was not going to get within 1 billion miles of that. Her donors would never allow her to get within 1 billion miles of that. That is so preposterous that when you say something like that, it's disqualifying. Like, I can't debate someone who thinks that Democrats are communists when they're actually largely corporatists. You see what I'm saying?